But our lead story tonight, it's now day 49 of the Russia invasion of Ukraine, and the evidence of war crime and genocide is now tumbling out. As they say, bodies can't lie. And Vishnu, it must have been extremely traumatic to see that evidence being unearthed, bodies being exhumed in front of your eyes today.
It was extremely difficult, Sonia, because, it was a windy day. It's been extremely windy throughout. And the stench of those bodies, as they were actually dug up and brought out, it was clear for all of us. It was difficult to actually be there, but more than anything else, reflect on the fact that these were horrific. It was horrific to actually be there, to actually be reporting this, and to be reporting what we've all heard about human rights violations, of children being raped, about people with their arms being bound, their hands being bound, shot execution style. 56 at least bodies are in that 40-foot long mass grave. We actually brought satellite images of that about a week back, where it was identified, the location of the mass grave next to this church, or in this church compound. And to be here at this very site just a couple of days later and to see with your own eyes what exactly was there is, it was difficult. But this is what Ukraine believes is essential in proving to the entire world that there have been human rights violations, what they refer to as a genocide, committed by Russian soldiers as they left this area. But that's their side of the story. Important to note also that Russia says that this has not happened at all. All right, well, I'm in the town of Bucha on the outskirts of Kyiv, and there have been horrific scenes which we've been witnessing now for the last couple of hours. Just about 2 or 3 feet away from me is the mass grave, which was detected a little bit more than a week back. There have been any number of bodies which have now been exhumed from this mass grave. Forensic investigators, including international forensic investigators, are over here, and they're going to be trying to collect information on how exactly these individuals lost their lives. And this, the Ukrainians argue, would perhaps add to what they say is a body of evidence suggesting Russian war crimes in this particular area. Bucha is one of the areas which is now accessible, an area which the Russians have actually left. There's another body as I speak which has just been recovered now. It's in a black body bag. It's now going to be placed on that platform that you actually see, and it's going to be moved across to the other side in a while from now. Now, about this particular site itself, this was actually dug by the Ukrainians a couple of weeks back. There are believed to be at least 57 bodies in this particular area, but they say they could in fact be more. And it's post this process of forensic investigation that there's going to be a DNA survey which is going to be done, because they don't know the identity of all of the individuals who've been found over here. They're going to be looking to see for marks for torture. They're going to be looking to see if these individuals died of shrapnel injuries, or in fact they died of other causes. They were executed, because in other parts of Bucha there has been evidence of individuals with their hands bound and shot execution style. Now, when these people died is still quite unclear at this stage. Were they killed or did they die as a result of the fighting in the early phases of what has now been a 40-day plus war in this country, or in fact did they die more recently? Were they victims of Russian atrocities? Now, India for its part has always said, particularly now in more recent times, in more clarity and perhaps more directly, that there needs to be an international investigation to look into the allegations of atrocities being committed over here in Bucha. So the process towards that is well and truly underway. This is the church which we actually saw on satellite images and subsequently on video as well. And there were these initial reports which had come in more than a week back that near this area there was a 40-foot long grave, which had a mass grave which had actually been dug. That has now been located, and as you can see, the platform being moved over here. And I can't tell you how bizarre it is that we were seeing these satellite pictures, and we were seeing the amateur video which was emerging from Bucha, and today we are at this particular site where these forensic investigators, they've been digging out these bodies from this mass grave, and they've actually now they've been putting it onto the little platform attached to a crane and then bringing it across to the opposite side. These are being moved to various areas, including hospitals where they're going to be kept before they are eventually buried, and that will take place in another area. So that's the process. As you can see, it's been going on, and the area is, it's difficult to actually stand over here because it's windy, and the wind carries the stench of dead bodies as well every now and again. But we feel it's necessary to report this very important story because Bucha, it is said and it is feared, is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to getting a real idea of the extent of the of potential war crimes, of civilian losses, either through war crimes or otherwise. Innocent people are the victims of wars always, and we see this once again. You can see drones as well in the sky. Ashok, in front of you over there, there's a drone. And this is actually being used not just by the media but by the investigators as well to actually document every single part of the process through which these bodies are actually being recovered. There's this constant effort at filming itself. The town of Bucha itself, large parts of it remain off limits. As the Russians were retreating, they were in fact mining parts of this area as well. So there are areas which we can't actually enter as well. So this is the very latest that you can see, and these pictures really do tell a story, and a very sad story of human loss, which is inevitable with war. This has been an exceptionally bloody war. The overall numbers of casualties on either side, whether it's Ukrainian or Russian, the numbers keep changing. It's unclear. And if this is the situation in the town of Bucha itself, imagine what it could be in a larger city, a city like Mariupol, which has been absolutely devastated in the south of this country, where again there have been very strong allegations of war crimes which have actually been coming in. So it's a frightening, sad process that is going on now, as you can see.
Vishnu, what a disturbing, powerful story then. As you point out, that already at least 50 bodies have been exhumed from Bucha, and more to come. Really, really tragic. This will, of course, form the basis of an international investigation. And as we're speaking, the Kremlin has just issued a statement saying that President Biden was wrong to call what's happening in Ukraine genocide. But really, those visuals belie the claim of no war casualties. As you point out, gunshot wounds and bound hands of many of those bodies. We warn our viewers again that those visuals are disturbing. Meanwhile, Indian global software company Infosys is to move out of Russia in the backdrop of the Russian invasion. Infosys has said that it's going to be moving its business out. Infosys CEO today, as he's announcing the results of this quarter, said that we've started the transition of our business to outside Russia. The work we do in Russia is for global clients, and we are very concerned about the situation on the ground. Now, Infosys is the first Indian company to actually move out of Russia, though, of course, many global software companies have moved out of there. This comes in the backdrop, of course, of the whole controversy over British Chancellor Rishi Sunak because his father-in-law's involvement in Infosys. He's married to Narayana Murthy's daughter, Akshita. And, of course, this comes as Infosys announced a 12% growth in profits in the latest quarter.
Given what is going on in the region, we have started to transition all of our work from our centers in Russia, from in Russia to our centers outside Russia. We have less than 100 employees in Russia. We work with no Russian clients, and the work we do is with a small number of global clients in Russia, for which, as I just mentioned, we started the transition. We are very much concerned with what is going on the ground.
Meanwhile, the other big headlines, well, yesterday India recorded a worrying rise in inflation. It's nearly touching 7%. But latest figures coming out since then have also shown how inflation is surging across the world in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The US is at 8.5%. That's a 4-decade high. The UK has just announced inflation figures of 6.2%, a 3-decade high for the UK. In India at 6.9%, a 17-month high. Germany at 7.3%, a 3-decade high. And Spain is facing nearly 10%, which is a 37-year high. So extremely worrying. Inflation surges on the back of high commodity and fuel prices being reported from across the world. Well, the other big headline tonight, the BJP government in Karnataka is being hit by what's called the 40% cut scam. A day after a BJP worker and a contractor committed suicide, blaming Minister Eshwarappa in his last message, the BJP minister is still defiant, refusing to quit, even though apparently strong signals have been sent by the BJP High Command saying the minister must go. Meanwhile, the opposition has taken protests out across the state. They've met the governor demanding that the minister resign. But in an NDTV exclusive, the Karnataka Contractors Association has said that they have to pay bribes to various ministers' offices. In fact, they're given an entire bribe rate card.
A defiant minister refusing to resign, even as an FIR naming him as accused number 1 in the abetment of suicide of 41-year-old Santosh Patil, a BJP worker and contractor, was registered today. The Congress met the governor. The chief minister was gear-out, while AAP marched on the streets. In fact, Eshwarappa called for a press conference to announce he is staying on. A virtual dare to his own party high command. A message has apparently gone from Delhi to the chief minister. Eshwarappa must be sacked. In an explosive revelation, the head of the BBMP Contractors Association, KT Manjunath, said today that bribes are paid to ministers, MLAs and officials in the BJP government. A huge embarrassment for the BJP mantra of zero corruption. Manjunath even had a rate card. Give commission for each contract. For getting a contract, it's 15% cut. For submitting bills, 10 to 12% cut. For getting payment, 10% cut. Contractors' total commission paid over 40%. KT Manjunath, the president of BBMP Contractors Association, admits that he has given kickbacks to several ministers, MLAs and officials. He also tells us that no work can happen without a bribe. Have you had to pay a commission?
Yeah, definitely. All the contractors has to pay the commission.
For getting a contract of the project is 15%.
15%.
Okay.
15%. And then submitting the bill, that is 10 to 12%. And getting a LOC, like a bill, a payment. Getting for a payment, that is also 10%.
So a total of put together, will it be at least about 35%?
More than 40%.
Yes, 100 times we are paid. Now it has become, after 2019 onwards, it has become a 40%, more than a 40%.
ಕಾನೂನು ಅಂತ ಏನು ಕ್ರಮ ಬೇಕೋ ಅದು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡೋಣ ಅದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ
ತಾವು ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಸರ್
It is reported that Santosh was given the work order orally by the minister to construct the road in Hindalga village in Belagavi district of Karnataka, and the cost of the project was around rupees 4 crore. Santosh had borrowed huge amounts of money and had even sold his wife's jewelry to complete the project. But a year and a half later, after completing the project, he received not a single rupee. He leaves behind a wife and a 9-month-old baby boy. His family has now agreed to go for a postmortem of Santosh's body, after which it will be taken to his hometown in Belagavi district of Karnataka.
ನ್ಯಾಯ ಸಿಗಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ಡೆತ್ ನೋಟಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬರೆದಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ರ ಆಪ್ತರಾದ ಬಸವರಾಜ ರಮೇಶ್ ಅಂತವ್ರನ್ನ ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಈಶ್ವರಪ್ಪ ಅವರು ಬಸವರಾಜ್ ಮತ್ತು ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಿರುಕುಳ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ವಿಷಯ 80ರಿಂದ 90 ಸರ್ತಿ ಈಶ್ವರಪ್ಪರು ಕೂಡ ಹೋಗಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಸಂಬಂಧ.
ಅದು FIR ಆಗಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿವರಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಶ್ವರಪ್ಪರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅವರು ವಿರೋಧ ಪಕ್ಷದವರು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ತಪ್ಪುಗಳನ್ನು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ತನಿಖೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸತ್ಯಾಂಶ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ತನಿಖೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಏನು ಇದರ ಪಾತ್ರ ವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇದರ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆ ಏನಿದೆ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಾಳಷ್ಟಿದೆ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ತನಿಖೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆಚೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಚೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಸತ್ಯ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಮೊದಲನೇ ದಿವಸನೂ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಕಾನೂನು ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಈ ತನಿಖೆ ನಡೀತದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಹಸ್ತಕ್ಷೇಪ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಆ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ.
Accused person should be arrested immediately.
The political blame game has just begun. While the Congress is blaming the BJP government for being corrupt, the BJP government is under unprecedented pressure to sack KS Eshwarappa. Now, in the midst of all this, we see the 40% commission scam is getting buried. With Santosh's death, will more skeletons tumble out? In Bengaluru with Govind, Shrija for NDTV.
Moving to our special report now from Madhya Pradesh, where a day after Ram Navami clashes, bulldozers were used. The argument is that it was used to bulldoze justice, crushing people's dreams, because in 24 hours, how did the police find that people were guilty of throwing stones? So bulldozers running riot, no proof, no court order needed. However, the government says that this was being done against illegal encroachment, though the Home Minister also told NDTV it was being done because of stone pelting. But after this, now for sale signs are up across the district.
उस दिन आपने उनसे बोला कि घर मत तोड़ो, मेरा तो
बहुत कहा मैंने, मैं घर में से निकलूँ नहीं, मैं दरवाजे कान से मैंने कहा मैं नहीं निकलूंगी, मैं जाऊंगी कहाँ, मैं यही मारूंगी, चला बुल्डोजर तुम, मेरे को खींच के फेंकी, डंडे मारे, मेरी लड़की है जुआन, उसको डंडे मार के बाहर फेंकी उसको भी.
Hasina, Shirazbi and Manjula Bai have lost their husbands and have now lost their homes. Hasina is a labourer. Shirazbi makes garlands to offer in temples. Manjula Bai is a labourer.
हम अकेले थे ना भैया, हमारे घर कोई आदमी होता तो हम उनका मुकाबला करते.
बिस्तर पूरा जल चुका है, पंखा देखिए नीचे गिर के कहाँ आ गया है.
सब लूट लिया गया, कुछ भी नहीं बचा इसमें. सर क्या पहनेंगे?
Victims from both communities in the sensitive areas of Khargone are still haunted by the night of violence and arson. Many have now put up for sale signs on their houses.
चौथी बार दंगा हो रहा है, कब तक दम रखेंगे हम भी सर.
और यहाँ देखो, रूम में देखो, हालत रूम की देखो कैसी कर दी उन्होंने.
घर में बच्चे थे और बहुएं थी.
Mohammad Rafiq lives in the Choti Mohan Talkies area. Part of his house was also demolished and he says he did not get a notice.
इस मामले में आज तक मुझे अवगत नहीं करवाया गया कि भाई तोड़ने का कारण क्या है. ये कुछ भी मुझे नहीं मालूम. ना ही
के पूरे कागज हैं.
हाँ, मकान के मेरा पूरे डाइवर्टेड कागज हैं. ये मेरे कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आया कि इसका कारण क्या है. या तो मुझे पूर्व में कोई नोटिस दिया होता.
The district administration claims that they had demolished only the illegal buildings.
हमने जो कार्रवाई किया है वो गवर्नमेंट लैंड के ऊपर जो इलीगल कंस्ट्रक्शंस थे वो या इलीगल बिल्डिंग्स थे, जो प्रॉपर प्रोसीजर फॉलो करने के बाद ही किया है.
The Khargone SP, discharged from hospital, says he was attacked with a sword and shot.
कुछ तलवार वगैरह लेके भी लोग दौड़े तो हम लोगों ने उसे पकड़ा तो उसे कोई कवर दे रहा था तो भीड़ में से किसी ने फायर किया जो मेरे बैक पैड में लगी.
The situation is tense but calm in Khargone. Senior police officials are camping in the town to review the situation. Around 100 people have been arrested so far for indulging in the violence and 89 of them have been sent to jail.
Both communities targeted, both suffered heavy losses, and I can only remember Bashir Badr, who has once said, "लोग टूट जाते हैं घर बनाने में, तुम तरस नहीं खाते यूं बस्तियां जलाने में." With camera person Rizwan Khan and Asif in Khargone, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Who will rebuild the dreams of people whose houses have been demolished there? Meanwhile, in other news, BJP MP Tejasvi Surya and his delegation were blocked from going to an area in Rajasthan which is riot-hit, Karoli. The BJP and Congress are now trading charges over the politics of polarization.
A massive BJP rally led by BJYM President Tejasvi Surya making its way to Karoli, a city that has become a political flashpoint for the Gehlot government after clashes between two communities took place here on the 2nd of April. Even as Karoli remains under watch by security agencies, the BJP rally was blocked 40 kilometers from Karoli town. But the BJP is determined to raise the issue to a larger political platform.
यहाँ 144 लागू नहीं है, उसके बावजूद भी सरकार ने हम सब लोगों के जो संवैधानिक अधिकार है, आंदोलन खड़े करना, करौली जाना, ये हमारा संवैधानिक अधिकार है. ये तानाशाही सरकार हमारा संवैधानिक अधिकार को भी छीन रहे हैं.
After tension in the state following the clashes in Karoli, restrictions were imposed on rallies and processions in several sensitive districts across the state.
जहां राम नवमी के धार्मिक यात्राएं निकल रही हैं, वहां धारा 144 लगाई जा रही है. लेकिन ये कांग्रेस सरकार है जिसने हिंदू आतंकी शब्द दिया और मुझे अचंभा नहीं होता अब जिस तरह से धारा 144 लगाई जा रही है जहां जहां यात्राएं निकल रही हैं.
Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot responded with a tweet blaming the BJP for playing politics of polarization. But with assembly elections in Rajasthan due next year, it's more than temperatures that will be soaring this summer. In Jaipur, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
Is it all about elections? Well, moving now to a story from Mumbai, which thankfully is away from clashes and polarization. It's about clean drinking water for all in Mumbai, a dream project announced by Minister Aditya Thackeray. Can it be done? The deadline is the 1st of May. That's less than a month away. The opposition is unconvinced, but Aditya Thackeray and the Bombay Municipal Corporation says it will happen.
प्राथमिकता आज बैठक याच्यावर झाली की वॉटर फॉर ऑल प्रत्येक नागरिकाला पाणी कसं देता येईल कारण पाणी हा एक फंडामेंटल राईट झालेला आहे.
India's financial capital will finally ensure proper water access to all. While that doesn't mean that illegal structures will become legal, every group of minimum of 5 homes will have a tap water connection. In practice, it will end dependence on tankers and political clout for water connections in slums and buildings. Here in Siddharth Nagar slum, the water connection has been held up for 25 years. Jai Mati, a resident, says he's grown up begging for water, and each drum of water costs rupees 40. Now it'll cost around rupees 250 to rupees 350 every 3 months.
ये ताला चाबी इसीलिए लगाया गया, जिसका पानी नहीं है वो इसमें से चुरा लेते हैं पानी. इस वजह से मजबूरी से इसको ताला मार के रखना पड़ता है लोगों को.
तो घर में जेवर जैसे ताला चाबी मार के रखते हैं वैसे पानी.
बिल्कुल जेवर से भी इम्पोर्टेंट पानी है यहाँ पे.
Till now, water connections were only given to buildings and residential societies that had complied with all legal requirements. This left out huge chunks of the population, including slums.
Water, a basic requirement to exercise one's right to life, is something that we take for granted, but for many communities it is a luxury, often kept under lock and key. Every drop is purchased, and a significant amount of these families' incomes go into purchasing water. Now this is all set to change.
The poor pay an inordinate sum of money for water, much more than what the middle class and the rich pay. Family is earning, say, maybe 15,000 or 20,000, almost 2,000 or 3,000 is spent on water.
The government's announcement comes ahead of the crucial municipal elections here. The BMC is the country's richest municipal corporation, and no party will oppose this move for the fear of losing crucial votes. In Mumbai, with camera person Praveen Ji Rohit, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Water for all, we'll be tracking that project. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is currently interacting with all the brave personnel who were involved in that hugely difficult rescue operation at Deoghar in Jharkhand, when over 40 people were trapped in cable cars. This includes the Indian Air Force, ITBP Jawans and the local administration. And a new video, meanwhile, has just come out of what actually happened, shot by passengers trapped inside those cable cars for a terrifying 48 hours.